All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another Black Desert video. So it's that time again. Every few months, I like to update one of my older videos and the best grind spots for silver. And as you guys know, this is an evolving game, and grind spots change. Some places get better, some places get worse. And so I'm gonna talk about it from a perspective of a new player all the way to end game, and plus my personal experience and a little bit of like Garmoth data as well. Even though I think Garmoth is usually for the more dedicated players, so like if you're using that tracking every hour, chances are you're more dedicated. So anyway, we're gonna use all that information and also my experience. Also, I heard that console players got, what is it, Mountain of Eternal Winter recently, which is kind of wild how it came out years later compared to us, where NA and EU and PC we're waiting for Land of the Morning Light 2, which is probably coming out soon, whereas Korea already has it. So it's, yeah, we know the feeling of waiting for new content during this drought. Anyway, with that said, the way I like to go about doing this is we use the Monster Zone info. We're gonna go sort by all AP, so from like the lowest AP to, I guess, to the end game 300 plus one, and then it should cover all regions. But I think the easiest way to talk about this is just go by AP order. I think we're gonna start off at around like 130, 140-ish, because you don't really need that much AP to do the story. And so by the time you're thinking about, hey, where should I go grind and everything, chances are you're playing on a seasonal server, and you're probably around like 130 to 250-ish. So I'm going to count that as beginner areas, and after everything else, we'll just talk about what changed over the past few months. So, good entry-level spots. Let's start at the 140 area. Polly's Forest is the good old classic. It's not so much good for silver, but it is good to get yourself out of seasons as pretty fast, and you know, just not bad for a beginner, and it's really good for everything else. So yeah, good entry-level spot. I'm just gonna talk about more of the notable grind spots. So like a lot of these things, they're okay, but there's nothing really super notable. I think there's a spot down by near the Hex Sanctuary area. It's where people level up from like 40 to 50. So if you're like an actual new player, somewhere down here is like really good for that. Admittedly, I've never grinded there just because by the time that place got buff years ago, I was way past that point. So anyway, for most people, Polly's Forest down in the Kama Sylvia area is really good. I think it is Trader's Graveyard or something like that. Proddy Cave, going down into the 170 area. This is a good spot for like seasonal characters as well. The one downside is you have to actually get there. So if you are like an actual new player, chances are you don't really have a boat to get there. But it's not super hard these days to get it. They actually buffed sailing over the years, and nowadays it's pretty easy to get. So if you can get there, it's a decent spot, but if you can't, it's not a big deal. Don't worry about that. Okay, so where were we? Let's see. What are some other good spots to grind? Let's see. Tashira is for the infinite potion piece. Polly's. I still remember grinding every single spot in the years I've been playing this game, and you can see like how it fell off all these years. So Blood Wolves at 180. I do believe this is actually a very decent spot now. Back when I was grinding it, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, for the infinite potion piece, these Kagdanacs, they weren't worth so much simply because we didn't have all those Red Fang Valor armor crystals or whatever, and now they're actually used in like meta crystals. So I do believe if you are grinding for your infinite potion, this spot is actually very good. So what crystal does it make? It makes these Dark Red Fang crystals. You need the Kagdanac thingy, and these are like 400 plus mil each. So like getting one of those is like actually very good in terms of drops. So yeah, I do believe just over the years, Blood Wolves actually got really good, and yeah, it's actually worth grinding here, especially if you are like in one area, 180-ish area. You get silver itself is okay, but the reason why you would be here is, you know, you can get the Cactinax, which is easy 400 mil, plus all the other drops, plus the infinite potion piece, which is primarily the main reason why you're here. Centaurs 180, the good old classic beginner grind spot where people are making at minimum like 500 mil an hour, even if you don't know what you're doing, and it's a big circle or oval grind spot in the area. You can even do it in the Marnie realm now. So yeah, the reason why this spot is good is because the Agris like multiplies the loot more than a lot of other grind spots, to the point where you get straight up silver and it's generally just good. So yeah, it is high silver an hour for a new player, but you have to use Agris, and it's probably around like 25,000 Agris an hour depending on your clear speed, and so that's like 1 hour a day if you only do the Marnie realm, and that's good. Okay, so next, Shuriken Necropolis. This is simply for the potion piece as well. I do think this is actually a very good spot with or without Agris, simply because the trash loot is actually pretty high, so you will have to have a lot of weight or know how to horse stack. But I do think this is a solid spot for a 190 area, plus the real reason you're here is for the potion piece. But yeah, that's about it. For Sonaros, another potion piece once again, not that bad. And yeah, like it's actually like when you're grinding for specific items, let's say you're going for a Debo ring or accessory or infinite potions or various treasure items, you know how you're focused on one item. Sometimes it feels really bad when you like grind for one thing and you don't get it. I know this because I spent like over 500 hours at Histria going for the Elton back in the day. And then, yeah, so for Sonaros, at least you're getting money there too. Monchums, I do believe, actually fell off. It used to be pretty decent, but that was also when Narc earrings were like 60 mil each. And ever since they came out with the Old Moon, the second one, and people getting straight up pen guarantees, that dropped the price of these accessories. So it does feel bad grinding here, but if you are going for the potion piece yourself, then you're gonna have to do it. I think it used to be like maybe 400 mil an hour, but now I think it's a lot less just because Narc accessories are not that great. However, the one thing that people are getting in a lot is Forest Furies, and a lot of people are swapping out the cups from the blue to yellow one, depending on if you're PvP, PvE, or whatever. But there's been a drought of Forest Furies, at least here on NA. So yeah, at least these are good money if you grind that. Sulfur and Pilaku if you're going for the map pieces. I don't think the normal one is worth it. If you're going for the treasure pieces, I would definitely recommend waiting till you're geared enough to do Dekia, simply because it just straight up makes more money or silver an hour. Plus, you know, you're gonna have to go out into the middle of nowhere, like it's straight up in the desert. So just wait till you're geared enough to go to Dekia and do it, and then honestly it feels the same. Plus, like, actually, now that I think of it, you know how Dekia is like tower spots, right? You do the bell or whatever, and enemies just spawn. It makes it so much easier where you don't have to do rotations in big circles and just let everything funnel towards you. So yeah. Sakraya Underwater. I actually have no idea how this is right now. So the upper one, you're there for the Rich Merchant Ring piece. I think it's okay silver, but like if you can go to the underwater area at like 260 AP or something, 250, that's significantly more money. But upper is more for a treasure piece than anything. And then underwater is where you want to be at. Okay, so let's see. Going down the list, what are some other notable spots? ever since the price of ominous rings have tanked, Thornwood, it used to be actually a very solid spot, both non-Dekia and Dekia Thornwood, but yeah, these ominous rings, you guys remember when it was like 320 mil each and now they're 40? Man, that spot fell off so hard, but maybe one day in the future when PvP is, you know, not out of touch, then things will go up. Who knows? Histria and Akhman. I do think Histria is actually a very solid spot with and without Agris. I know this because this is probably the most grinded spot I have with over 500 hours just going for an Elton piece. So I literally know every single rotation in Histria, and I think it's very solid actually. Like, if you're within the 230 area, you could make between, I would say, about like 500-600 mil entry, and then maybe one bill if you get lucky. So yeah, the reason why you'd be in History and Akhman is for the Compass piece, straight up, but it's not bad, especially if you have want a place to just burn Agris and everything, which I should do. Kratuga Ancient Ruins. This is a spot for newer players to mid-intermediate level players, and the reason why is it drops basically every notable artifact that you can get, and I think it is better to actually grind here, even if you're looking for something in particular, because, for example, let's say you are at Pilaku and you're looking for a ranged AP artifact, right? Now at Kratuga, it has the option to drop it as well, so you're probably thinking, oh, there's a higher drop rate pool, but so that means I'll have a less chance of getting it. Usually at grind spots where they have like specific ones of like 1 and 3, the drop rate is significantly lower, to the point where at Kratuga you get a lot more artifacts an hour. So I think on average, there's a higher chance of you getting what you want just by, you know, collecting a lot of them. And so yeah, that's, I think, one of the good things. Kratuga is kind of out of the way, so let me just show you where it is. So what you're going to want to do is go to the Hazra cliff area, and then there's going to be a little cave. You go in the cave, you follow the wall, and then there's going to be like a little thing that's like, here, do you want to enter this place? And then you either go in with a tag sage, or you have the claw piece to get in. And then it's kind of like a secret entrance to get in. But you go to Hazra, find a cave, and then hug a wall until you find it. So that's how you do it. Okay, where are we? 250. So yeah, I do think Kratuga is actually a solid place for like beginners to people around the like 250 area. So definitely a solid spot. And especially if you're targeting a specific artifact, it is decent. Star's End, hard truth is Star's End fell off. Like, if you get a disto from there, you're doing great. If you don't get a disto, it feels like the worst hour you've ever had grinding. And yeah, I think these days, now that distos are a little bit lower in price because all the Debarekas are out and people are like, either I get something else or anything. I don't think distos are bad at all. I think everyone should have at least one. But the truth is, it's not like the most fun spot to grind. So yeah, this spot is hit or miss. If you get an earring, you're doing great. If you don't get an earring, you feel like you wasted an hour. Underwater Sakraya, we talked about this a little bit earlier. So here's what changed in the past few, well, I guess month or so. So they introduced these things called Harmony drafts, and they're basically like these they're like the better version of the Frenzy that cost a little bit more. So I don't think that Frenzies are bad. I just think that these are more used for like higher end stuff. So I made a video on day one talking about how to craft every single of these elixirs. Is it cheaper to use the like individuals? If you have the fairy, continuous care, I would still probably recommend using the individual elixir rotation that I have. I have a video of that as well. But yeah, they came out with the Harmony draft, and admittedly, it probably replaces the Frenzy in terms of convenience for most people. It does cost a lot more. But, yeah. I don't think these are bad. I just think that, like, you kind of have to go out of your way to get them, and then you're just going to have to craft them yourself. So I think Sakraya underwater is like it's still a decent spot. It's just one of those things where you have to get out there in the middle of nowhere. So let me teach you how to get there if you don't have a boat. So let's say you're at Velia, right? You would traveler's map to Ilia Island right here, right? And then what you would do is move through the island, and then you go around here, like let's say by the beach over here. Then start swimming into the ocean. And then, you know, on your map, it'll tell you like you are on this like node or whatever, right? It'll like once you start swimming out in here a little bit, it'll say like you're in the Sakraya area, and then you'll escape down, and then you're basically in the Sakraya area at that point. Or you just get compassed in by your friends or guildies. So one of those is the option. But yeah, that's how you get there. So yeah, Sakraya, it's not a bad spot. I think it fell off a little bit because of harmonies, but ultimately it's still decent. Churros, yeah, that fell off. The reason why you'd be there is for Fallen God, and then occasionally you'll get a Churro belt. Not that the Churro belts ever like dropped consistently for me when I was grinding there during the meta, but I mean, you're there for the flame, which you can just buy. All right, so Gyfin upper. Gyfin has been reworked, both the upper and lower, so many times over the past year. I think ultimately people say that it's good, like both upper and lower. Obviously, we'll talk about that later. But I think the hardest part of grinding upper Gyfin is finding a full group, so like 4 people plus you, and then they changed how the loot worked for party grinding over the past few months, I believe. I remember reading that in the patch notes. So it's just like automatically split, and then you don't have a setting for it. So yeah, that's one thing. I think Gyfin upper is decent if you can find a group, which is the hardest part. Man, Winter Tree Fossil, it has not been good in the sense Mountain of Eternal Winter came out. I do want to talk about a little bit of the Mountain of Eternal Winter spots, because I believe console got theirs early. So the spots you would be grinding down here in the region would probably be Jade Starlight Forest, simply because you're getting a Labresca helmet. This is probably the notable spot that you can go to. It's the most like it's the spot that you just go for the flames and ember pieces. And I don't know if you could buy them off the market. Like here on NA or PC, you can just buy the straight up flames and embers. But if you're grinding it yourself, then this is the spot. You make sure to be in the node. This spot is actually really easy, because it's one of the simpler rotations where it's kind of like 3 packs. Think of a triangle, right? Like 3 points on a triangle. And then you just rotate between packs. Sometimes if you're a faster class, you would do like a square, so each corner of a square. It's kind of like that in all the rotations. Another notable spot that I actually liked grinding was Murrowwax Labyrinth down here, because it was a unique grind spot. You know how, I guess it's going to be new for console players, but on PC, where we had 1 hour of the Marnie Realm every day so people could grind in peace, this was the solo spot back in the day. So like everyone would have their own instance essentially, and then every 15 minutes everyone in the area would rotate a room, and then after like an hour or something, everyone works together to defeat the boss in the center. I have a video of it if you want to watch it as well. But yeah, it was like the first case of an instance grind spot before the Marnie Realm came out. And so yeah, I think that was a solid spot. But realistically, for Mountain of Eternal Winter, you're just going to be at Jade Starlight Forest. Okay, what's next? Bloody Monastery. I actually thought this spot was pretty solid because you get a lot of bells. It's one of those fun like Dynasty Wars, if you even know what that game is. It's like basically hordes of enemies coming towards you, and then you just like AoE everything down. So that's what the Crimson Bells do. You just, when you get a lot of them per hour, I guess, like a few of them, like 3 to 5 or something, maybe more. But basically you summon the bell and then waves of enemies come at you for 5 minutes, and then you can multiply it. So if you summon like 7 bells at the same time, you're getting waves of enemies. So yeah, I think this spot was like a bill an hour, but that was also when lunar necklaces were more expensive. Nowadays, assuming you don't get a lunar, it's probably still like 600-700, which is not so great for a 260, but it's not the worst I've ever seen. So it's just like average now. But I mean, I would still grind it. You also get other things like the yellow shards, because you're going to need that for the cups. Eventually, everyone is going to need them. And Orc Camp in the 260. This is probably the most notable Elvia spot, simply because it's straight up the most silver. So this spot is interesting because there are no like unique items. So you know how some spots you grind for accessories, right? This spot is just pure silver. Everything you sell is to the vendor. And so like you get a lot of trash loot. You can definitely make over $1 bill an hour here. I have a lot of hours in the Orc Camp, and I think this is probably my second most grinded spot next to Histria. And so yeah, I just think this is overall a very good spot. I don't think really anything changed because all the loot is to the NPC vendors instead of like, you know how if you get an accessory, sometimes that's the jackpot item. And like, I guess this one just straight up stayed the same. It's a timeless one. So yeah, Orc Camp 260, probably the top grind spot for silver and XP actually. I do believe I got to 64 here. Well, actually, I went from like 62 to 64 here. And you could probably honestly go to 66 if you wanted to, but there's better spots. But up to 64, you're probably doing fine. I heard that Elvia Giants post in like the Cyclops areas are actually very good right now. And so I think I don't have a lot of hours into it, but according to like Garmoth data and everything, Cyclops and Giants and Elvia are decent. Olins, yeah, this is definitely a group grind spot, and it's very specific. Like, if you want to grind there, I would recommend just going with your friends, because if you're trying to find, or if you're trying to join like the Olins Discord, you actually have to be pretty geared or play a shy, essentially. So it's better to just go with your guildies and friends, and then it'll just be a better experience. Dekia Olins is, if depending on how well you know it, I would recommend doing normal Olins first to learn the mechanics, when to like which arm to attack, learning the patterns before doing Dekia, because if you're not geared and you're just going in there for the first time, you might actually get clapped, and then it's kind of scary losing billions of silver and crystals. But yeah, so I heard people are soloing normal Olins these days, but like, is that efficient? Probably not. But if you're trying to go for like the rich merchant ring, you could probably solo it. And when I talk about can you, or when people ask me, can you grind a certain spot? Grinding it, being able to do it versus doing it efficiently are two different things. So keep that in mind when I talk about that. Underground Gyfin. Yeah, this spot isn't the most amount of silver, but it is the most amount of XP an hour. So you can literally go from all the way up to 66 plus here. I think 66 is basically the soft cap these days, because it gets really difficult to grind like, or push 67 and up in other spots. And if you want to know, like, it's not really a secret, but the people who are 67 and up either grind a lot. Like, if you thought getting to 66 was hard, 66 to 67 is really time consuming. But I think the way people are doing it from 66 plus pushes are, I think there's like more XP off a training dummy straight up. It's weird. Or like RBF and some odd thing. But yeah, either way, a lot of XP, definitely the spot you want to be at for that. And I don't think it's bad simply because you get like Forest Furies and everything along with it. The Tungrad stuff may have dropped in price, so it's not as much as before, but I don't think it's a bad spot just because there's a lot of other reasons to be there. And so yeah, I think it's decent. All right, so everything past this area is probably going to be Dekia or like higher end gear check spots. So yeah, I have videos of basically all these spots if you want to watch it, learn the rotation and mechanics of everything. So if you've done normal Pilaku, it really feels the same. I think there is one enemy with like a purple name that you have to watch out that hits kind of hard, but it really just depends on don't get back attacked too many times. And ultimately it's not too bad. Like, is it a lot of silver? No. The highlights of being at Dekia for a lot of these spots are either the Deboreka accessory or the treasure piece that you want to go for. I believe if you are actually unironically going for the like memfrags, the scroll of written languages, whatever, I'm not too sure if Dekia is Pilaku is the way. Like Histria maybe is decent, but like Pilaku is not it. So Dekia Histria, after over 500 hours of grinding here, like a few years later, they came out with the Dekia version, and I have probably maybe 20 hours into Dekia, and I'm gonna be honest, like I think I actually made more silver an hour doing non-Dekia Histria, but the reason why you would be doing this is one for Elton piece as well, and for the Deboreka. But I think from my experience in like all Dekia spots that give Deberekas, it's probably like 1 in 10-15 hours each, which doesn't feel great, except for Crypt of Resting Thoughts, which that one's actually pretty solid actually. But yeah, I think, is it better? It feels the same, maybe a little bit worse, but like if you're already geared, it doesn't hurt to try it, so I think it's fine. Now we have Dekia Akhman. It's just kind of out of the way to get there. Like I don't think it was much better. Like it's easier than going through multiple rooms in Akhman on the normal one, but you still have to go there. So that's the whole thing. So are they better? Not necessarily. You're going there for the accessories most likely. Hex Sanctuary. This spot used to be decent simply because one, you get distos every now and then. But you guys remember when Crystallized Despairs were like 60, 70 mil each, I think? Or like it was definitely higher than 20. And then, so the reasons why you'd use these now is for people who don't have your Vel's Heart like upgraded. So there's a Vel's Heart and then like stage 1 upgrade and stage 2 upgrade. It just gives more DP like on your sheet. So you'd use a lot of these for it. And yeah, this is basically what it is. You combine it into this, you get the Blessed Soul Fragment, you use that to upgrade your Vel's Heart, and then that's about it. So this used to be a very solid spot. I remember making like 2 bill an hour back in the day, a few years ago. Nowadays, honestly, the most of the silver you get from here is from Crystallized Despairs, and then every now and then you'll get a disto or something. But like, I wish this spot was good again. So the way they could fix the spot is literally making more uses for Crystallized Despairs. So right now, there's only like 2 things you can use him for, and one of those uses is not even worth it. So it would be like just upgrading your bell. Crypt of Resting Thoughts. Okay, so I think this is actually one of the best spots to grind for like Deberekas. And like, okay, so if you are self-enhancing for profit, right? Like, let's say you want to enhance a Tet Debo belt and just sell it. Deboreka belts actually drop like every other hour. I think the worst I've had is maybe like a 5-6 hour like drought of not getting any, but like that compared to like Ash Forest and other spots like for the Debo earrings, this is not that bad. So I think there's a lot of good uses if you're going for the what is it, the La Orzeka helmet and body armor. That's cool. You get the Limbo Seal end game thing for the rings, and then you get a lot of belts actually. So yeah, I think Crypt of Resting Thoughts is actually very solid, and a lot of the silver though will be from the belt and everything, but they drop pretty frequently actually. Okay, so regular Ash Forest versus Dekia Ash Forest. Right now on Garmoth, Dekia Ash Forest is actually the highest amount of silver an hour. However, if you are trying this for the first time, like normal Ash Forest, it's okay. Dekia Ash Forest, it's kind of scary. You're like, some people grind so they can, you know, chill out, just watch a show on the side. If you are new to Dekia Ash Forest, you are not watching that show on the side. You are alert, and you're going to be grinding. So yeah, I think honestly, if you're just going for the earring, or not earring, the necklace itself, I think that regular Ash is more chill. But if you're going straight silver, according to Garmoth, Dekia is better. Yzerheed Highlands. I think this spot is solid. It's not as good as before, simply because the fragments and everything are, you know, they used to be 100 mil when they came out, and now they're literally half the price. But Kabua's artifacts used to be 10 bill, now they're half, so obviously silver an hour is cut down from that. But it is also a chill spot. Like, for, I know you're looking at this and like, oh, you need 310 AP and 420 plus DP. I think you can honestly get away with a little bit less. So like, let's say you're 301 or even like 290 something. I think you can do this just fine. Where the 420 DP comes in from, I think they want you to have the DP simply because there's mechanics to it. Not necessarily that the enemies hit hard. It's like sometimes there'll be a big expanding red circle, right? And then if you get hit by that, that kind of does chunk your health. So you might actually get one-shotted if you don't have gear. But it's not really damage from the enemies that's the problem. It's more from the like middle tower mechanics that I think is hard. But yeah, I think a very solid spot, especially for Agris. And Darkseekers, they've changed their spot like at least 3 times over the past 2 years. And I've done it. I've grinded about like maybe 100-ish hours when it came out, like the first month it came out or so, going for the Ator shoes. And then they made a few changes, but I haven't really been there since then. I think people like it. I've asked a lot of friends and then some other guildies and streamers, and they're like, yeah, it's fine now. So according to them, it's fine, but I haven't been there since the first change. All right, so we're at City of the Dead now. You're gonna have to be at City of the Dead. You're gonna have to be at all the spots if you want the telescope piece. I do actually unironically think the telescope is probably one of the most convenient things I've ever had. You know how all treasure items, let's say, whether you have a compass, the archaeologist map, or the telescope, I really think the telescope is the most convenient thing that I use on a daily basis compared to everything else. So for example, so what it does is basically, you know how the compass allows you to pull people to you, right? Like the telescope allows you to teleport to someone else. And so, yeah, I think this is actually just the most convenient thing. Admittedly, it is in the higher end area and you're going to have to be grinding a lot for it. So that's one of those things. But if you were to go for any treasure item that's not like Rich Merchant Ring or like the non crazy ones like the Ebenruth Knoll for sailing and everything, Rich Merchant Ring, obviously number 1, followed by telescope, and then everything else. But yeah, City of the Dead, it's kind of a unique slow spot because it's like, I think they changed it where the way it works is you kill a certain enemy, like the priority target, and then it'll weaken all the enemies on the side. And then after that, it's kind of like you just slow loot and repeat. It feels like you're from pack to pack, kind of doing it slowly. But yeah, that's about it. It's not terrible. Dekia Turo. I've done this a few times. I think like it's considered top 5 grind spots for silver, but it is a group spot. So just once again, like same with Dekia Olin's group spot. I really enjoyed Dekia Thornwood. I was making like 1.5 bill an hour, and then Ominous Rings fell off, and then I haven't been there since. So yeah, last time I grinded here was when Ominous Rings were about 300 plus million each, and then I'll get like 4 plus rings an hour. So that's where a lot of money plus all the trash loot and everything else. So nowadays, I think you would struggle to make a bill an hour. Like, it's not great, but it was a very chill spot, admittedly, but that's about it. Dekia Ash, you have to be alert to grind there. There's no, like, I'ma recline my chair and watch a TV show on the side. That's just from my experience. I also play a Dark Knight, which is a glass cannon. If you play, like, a super tanky class, that might not apply to you, but for me, it was a sweaty grind. Cyclops Land and Quint Hill. Admittedly, I don't have a lot of hours in these spots, but they are considered very high rated on Garmoth, so you are making over a bill an hour. However, you do have to have gear to be at these spots as well. So yeah, I think these are decent. I think Cyclops is better than Quint. Admittedly, when I play BDO, you guys know Black Desert is like a fast-paced game. You go from pack to pack or PvP or whatever. Everything is fast motion. Quint Hill has got to be like the slowest grind spot you've ever seen, because you're literally killing one enemy for like 30 seconds, and then you go to the next enemy, kill that one for 30 seconds. So it's really slow. The silver is decent, but it's slow. And then Tungrad, I have a lot of hours in Tungrad, actually. It's probably in my top 5 of most grinded, because I used this spot to grind a lot of Origins to build my 300 stacks, going for Devos and everything. And then I also needed Limbo Seals and everything, and plus you need the telescope piece. So I think I have about like maybe 200-300 hours here total. And yeah, I think you can make over a bill an hour on average, whether you get a essence or not. Who knows? But I don't know. I've had weird hours where I've gotten 0 essences. I've also gotten like 7 essences an hour, and I've only gotten one straight hunger, but like it doesn't really matter. But the reason why you would be here is for a lot of different reasons. So I think it's an overall decent spot. But anyway, with that said, I covered all the notable spots that are worth grinding from beginner all the way to end game. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Every now and then I like to update these videos simply because grind spots change, and yeah, so I wanted to talk about that. But with that said, thanks so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I would love to see you come back. I have some other guides I want to update as well in the future, so if you're looking to keep up with the game, I've been playing this game for 8 years and just like to share my knowledge with you guys. So with that said, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a fantastic day. Peace.